might seem like this map has existed for centuries, with its borders firmly drawn and nations set in stone. But that's far from the truth. Take a look at the world map from 1600. It barely resembles what we have today. Fast forward to 1900, and even then, massive empires ruled lands that are now independent countries. The world map isn't permanent. It shifts and transforms alongside human civilization. And we may be on the verge of yet another dramatic change. Imagine waking up to the news that a new country has just been born, its flag raised, its anthem played, and its leaders declaring independence to the world. Some of these movements have been quietly growing for decades. Others are approaching a breaking point. From frozen post-Soviet states to ancient European regions, and even a massive island that a US president wanted to buy, these are the top 10 nations that might declare independence next. Hit a like button, subscribe, and let's explore all of them. Not all independence movements are equal. Some are fueled by overwhelming public support. Others by strategic diplomacy or economic strength. Our ranking considers political momentum, historical grievances, economic viability, and international recognition efforts. We examined independence referendums, protests, and leadership backing while analyzing economic sustainability and whether these regions could thrive independently. Global recognition is also key. Without it, even the strongest movements may falter. Using UN reports, CIA assessments, and research from think tanks like Brookings Institution and Chatham House, we identified the most likely nations to declare independence. Some are already knocking on the door of statehood, while others are just one geopolitical crisis away from breaking free. The world map may change sooner than you think. Coming in at number 10, Greenland is the world's largest island, yet it remains politically tied to Denmark. But here's the twist. Greenland can legally vote for independence at any time. It already enjoys self-rule, manages its natural resources, and has its own parliament, yet full independence remains elusive. The biggest obstacle? Money. Greenland's economy still depends on Denmark, with subsidies making up nearly 20% of its GDP. Cutting ties could mean financial instability, but things are changing fast. As climate change melts Arctic ice, trillions of dollars in untapped oil, gas, and rare minerals are becoming accessible. This has drawn the attention of major global powers, including the US and China, eager to invest and gain influence. In 2025, US President Donald Trump even proposed buying Greenland, a shocking move that underscored its strategic importance. While Denmark refused, the episode highlighted just how valuable Greenland has become. With growing nationalist sentiment and increasing economic opportunities, it may only be a matter of time before Greenland takes the ultimate step toward independence. Could Greenland soon become an independent nation? Share your thoughts in the comments. At number 9, Veneto, Italy's wealthiest rebels. For centuries, Venice was a powerful republic, dominating Mediterranean trade and shaping European history. But today, the region of Veneto, where Venice lies, is entangled in a modern struggle, one for independence. Veneto is one of Italy's wealthiest regions, yet many locals feel they give more to Rome than they get in return. This frustration led to an unofficial 2014 referendum, where 89% of voters supported independence. Though Italy dismissed the results, the sentiment remains strong. With an economy exceeding $200 billion, Veneto thrives in manufacturing, exports, and tourism, making it financially capable of standing alone. However, Italy has no legal framework for secession, making independence an uphill battle. The 8th on the list, the Flemish Republic. Belgium's borders might seem permanent, but cracks have been forming for decades. The Dutch-speaking region of Flanders is not only culturally distinct from the French-speaking Wallonia, but also significantly wealthier. With a GDP per capita nearly 40% higher than the South, many Flemish citizens are tired of subsidizing what they see as an economic burden. The new Flemish Alliance, Belgium's dominant political party, has long championed independence, and their influence is only growing. National elections repeatedly expose the deep divide, and while Belgium has avoided a breakup so far, the pressure keeps mounting. If Flanders ever votes to go its own way, it could mark the beginning of Belgium's unraveling, leaving Brussels, the EU's capital, in an unprecedented crisis. The 7th on the list, West Papua, has been fighting for independence for decades. Once a Dutch colony, it was controversially annexed by Indonesia in 1969 after a highly disputed referendum where only 1,026 hand-picked representatives voted under heavy military pressure. Many Papuans reject Indonesian rule, arguing that their Melanesian culture, language, and traditions set them apart. The region is rich in natural resources, including the massive Grasberg mine, one of the world's largest gold and copper deposits. Yet, Papuans see little benefit, as much of the wealth flows to Jakarta. Armed resistance continues, and peaceful activists risk arrest simply for raising the banned Morning Star flag. International attention is growing, with Pacific nations and human rights groups calling for a new referendum. At number 6, Abkhazia is a breakaway region that has spent decades in political limbo. Officially, it's part of Georgia, but since the brutal war of the early 1990s, it has operated as a self-proclaimed republic. With its own government, currency, and military, Abkhazia functions like an independent nation, yet only a handful of countries recognize it. Nearly 80% of its budget comes from Moscow, and Russian troops control its borders, making it more of a protectorate than a truly sovereign state. Before the conflict, ethnic Georgians made up nearly half of Abkhazia's population, but mass displacement changed the region's demographics. Now, with fewer than 250,000 residents, its economy survives on Russian aid and tourism. While Georgia continues to push for reintegration, Abkhazia's leaders insist on independence, creating one of the most complex geopolitical deadlocks in the post-Soviet world. Ranking 5th on the list, South Ossetia is a breakaway region that exists in a political gray zone. Officially part of Georgia, it has been under Russian influence since the 2008 war, with its economy, military, and even daily governance deeply tied to Moscow. But unlike most separatist movements, South Ossetia isn't fighting for full independence. Many of its people want to become part of Russia. With a population of just over 50,000, the region relies almost entirely on Russian subsidies, which make up nearly 90% of its budget. Russian troops guard its borders, and its local government has openly pushed for annexation. Georgia still considers South Ossetia an occupied territory and refuses to recognize any claims of sovereignty. Whether it becomes an independent state or officially merges with Russia, its future remains uncertain in one of the world's most tense geopolitical flashpoints. Coming in 4th on the list, Transnistria is a self-declared republic frozen in time. It broke away from Moldova after a short but brutal war in 1992 and has since operated as an unrecognized state, complete with its own government, military, and even a Soviet-style flag, hammer and sickle included. With a population of around 450,000, Transnistria runs on Russian support, receiving economic aid and military protection despite technically being part of Moldova. But what really gives this region its infamous reputation is its underground economy. Labeled a mafia state, it has been accused of widespread smuggling, black market dealings, and even arms trafficking. While Moldova insists on reintegration, Transnistria's leadership shows no sign of giving up independence. Whether it can ever gain international recognition or remain a geopolitical black hole is a question that has remained unanswered for over 30 years. Taking the 3rd spot on the list, Somaliland is a nation that exists in every way, except on the world map. Since breaking away from Somalia in 1991, it has built a functioning government, held democratic elections, and maintained a level of stability unheard of in its war-torn neighbor. Yet, despite governing itself for over 3 decades, no country officially recognizes it. What makes Somaliland unique is its success. It has its own currency, passport, and military. And unlike Somalia, it has largely avoided terrorism and lawlessness. Its economy thrives on trade, livestock exports, and a growing port industry, with Berbera aiming to become a major shipping hub. But the lack of recognition blocks access to international funding and trade agreements, keeping its growth limited. While many Somalilanders see their independence as irreversible, the world still refuses to acknowledge their reality. Securing the 2nd spot on the list, Catalonia is one of Europe's most determined independence movements. In 2017, the region staged a referendum that sent shockwaves through Spain, with over 90% voting for independence. But the Spanish government swiftly crushed the attempt, declaring it illegal, arresting key leaders, and deploying police to suppress protests. Despite this setback, the push for independence hasn't faded. Catalonia is Spain's economic powerhouse, contributing nearly 20% of the country's GDP and many Catalans believe they'd thrive as an independent nation. The region even has its own language, parliament, and police force, further fueling the idea that it's already a country in everything but name. While Spain refuses to let go, tensions resurface every election, and with millions still supporting independence, the dream of a sovereign Catalonia is far from over. At the top of the list, Scotland stands as one of the most likely nations to gain independence in the near future. In 2014, Scots narrowly voted to stay in the UK, with 55% rejecting independence. But that was before Brexit, an event that Scotland overwhelmingly opposed. Now, calls for a second referendum are louder than ever. Scotland already operates with significant autonomy, having its own parliament and legal system. Economically, it boasts strong industries like oil, renewable energy, and finance, making independence a viable option. But breaking away wouldn't be easy. London strongly opposes another vote, and questions over currency, EU membership, and defense remain unresolved. If Scotland does declare independence, it could shake the foundations of the United Kingdom, inspiring similar movements in Wales and Northern Ireland. The question is no longer if Scotland wants independence, it's whether Westminster will let them have it. The world map has never been set in stone. Borders shift, nations rise, and empires fall. From Scotland's push for a second referendum to Greenland's economic awakening, independence movements are gaining momentum across the globe. Some of these regions are already functioning like separate countries, while others are locked in political battles that could explode into major global events. As history shows, no empire lasts forever, and no border is permanent. Will we soon see new flags raised and new nations born? The answer might come sooner than we think. Which country do you believe will be the next to gain independence? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with others so you never miss our upcoming content on world-changing events. See you soon!